The digital clock on the oven displayed 8:15. The turkey was cooling on the counter under a tent of aluminum foil. The smell of roasted chestnuts and sage stuffing filled the entire first floor of my house in the suburbs of Chicago. Outside, the snow was falling softly against the window pane. Inside, everything was perfect. The table was set with the good china and the crystal glasses I had not used since Ralph passed away. The only thing missing were the guests. I picked up my phone for the 10th time that hour. There was a notification from the family group chat. My heart leaped. Finally, they are coming, I thought. But it was not an apology for being late. It was not a photo of them in the car. It was a message that would stop my heart cold. Bitter old hag. No one can stand you. You are going to eat alone anyway. I read it once, then twice. The words blurred on the screen. These were not the words of a stranger. They were from my own children. That night I understood that a dinner could destroy much more than just an appetite. It could destroy the illusion that a mother's love was enough to hold together people who no longer wanted to be held. My name is Josephine Bennett, but everyone calls me Jo. I am 59 years old. I live in a house I paid for with my own hands and decades of honest sweat. This is the house where my 3 children grew up, Ted and Rudy and Diane. A house that on that Christmas Eve was full of food and lights and completely empty of the people I loved most in this world. This is the story I kept inside for too long. The story of a mother who believed unconditional love was enough. And the story of the night everything changed forever. 2 weeks before Christmas, I sent a message to the family group chat. I drafted it carefully, choosing every word like I was picking flowers for a bouquet. My loves, I want us to have dinner together this Christmas Eve. I will make all your favorites. I expect you at 8 o'clock at night. Do not miss it. I love you. I added a red heart emoji and even a little Christmas tree. I tried to sound cheerful and warm like I always had been with them. Ted replied first. Seen Mom. Rudy put a thumbs up. Diane did not even open the message for 2 days. But I was foolish and interpreted those silences as confirmations. I thought they are busy. They have their lives, but they will come. They always come when I need them. Or do they? I bought everything weeks in advance. I went to the market early one December morning when the wind off the lake was biting cold. I chose the most beautiful turkey I could find. I bought chestnuts and walnuts and apples for the cider. I bought the ingredients for the savory stuffing Ted loved so much, the spices Rudy preferred for the gravy, and the flour to make the gingerbread cookies that Diane had eaten since she was a little girl. I spent more than I should have, but I did not care. It was Christmas. It was my family. I spent 3 days cooking. My hands, which are not as young as they used to be, peeled potatoes and chopped onions. They kneaded and stirred and tasted. The house filled with those aromas that only exist in December. Cinnamon and clove and chocolate and the pine scent of the tree I decorated all by myself in the living room. I set the table on the afternoon of December 24th. I brought out the embroidered tablecloth my mother gave me when I got married. I placed the 4 porcelain plates and the crystal glasses. In the center, I put an arrangement of red poinsettias and white candles. Everything was perfect. I dressed in my best blouse, a deep wine color that Ted had given me years ago. I did my hair and put on a little makeup and a dab of perfume. I wanted to look good for them. I wanted them to feel proud of their mother when they arrived. By 7:30 at night, the house was ready. The lights were on, and the Christmas music was playing softly. The golden turkey was resting on the largest platter. Everything was ready. I sat in the living room to wait. 8 o'clock came. No one knocked on the door. 8:30. Silence. At 9 o'clock, I picked up my phone. I wrote to the group, "Are you coming? Dinner is ready." No one answered. At 9:30, I called Ted. He did not answer. I called Rudy, and it went to voicemail. I called Diane. She sent me straight to voicemail. At 10 o'clock at night, I realized something terrible. They were not coming. I got up from the armchair. I walked to the table. I looked at everything I had prepared with so much love. And in that moment, I felt something cold run through my chest. It was not sadness yet. It was disbelief. I took my phone again. I went into the family group. And then I saw it. There was a screenshot. Someone by mistake had forwarded a message from a different chat. A chat they had created without me. It was Diane. Do we seriously have to go have dinner with her? It is always the same thing. She makes us feel guilty if we do not go. Rudy had responded, I already have plans. Let her get mad if she wants. And Ted, my oldest son, the one who was always the calmest, wrote the message that broke me. Bitter old hag, no one can stand you. You are going to eat alone anyway. I read those words. Bitter old hag. Eat alone. It felt like the contempt needed to be written down to hurt more. Something inside me broke. It was not a loud break like the kind you cry over immediately. It was silent and deep and final. I put the phone on the table. I sat alone in front of that dinner I had prepared for 4. I served a plate for myself, just one. I cut a piece of turkey. I brought it to my mouth. I chewed, but I did not taste anything. I swallowed, but I did not feel hunger. The Christmas music kept playing. The candles were still burning. The lights on the tree blinked softly. But I was completely alone. And then, in the middle of that unbearable silence, I made a decision that would change everything. Sometimes we trust too much in those we should not. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. There are memories that hurt more because they are beautiful, because they contrast with what came after, because they force you to ask yourself at what moment everything began to crumble. Before that terrible Christmas Eve, there were years of laughter and hugs. There was a family that seemed unbreakable. I remember when Ted was born. It was a Thursday in April, 35 years ago. I was 24. I was so young and full of dreams. My husband Ralph took my hand in the hospital and said we are going to give him everything we did not have. And we kept that promise. We worked day and night so that our children would never know the hunger we had known as children. Ted was a calm baby with dark eyes and tiny hands that held onto my index finger as if it were his only certainty in the world. I sang him lullabies while I rocked him in my arms. I made him homemade baby food. I sewed his clothes when we did not have money to buy new ones. He was my firstborn, my pride. 2 years later, Rudy arrived, and with him came the chaos. He was a restless boy, always curious, always running through the house. He was always asking why. He would fall and scrape his knees, cry for 5 minutes, and go back to running. Ralph said Rudy had inherited my energy. I said he had inherited his father's stubbornness. We were both right, and 5 years later, when I thought my family was complete, Diane arrived, my only daughter, my girl with light eyes and contagious laughter. I received her with tears of happiness, the last piece of my puzzle. With her, my life was complete. We lived in a small house back then, 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom and a kitchen where the table barely fit. But in that humble house, my children grew up surrounded by love. On Sundays, we had barbecues in the backyard. On Saturdays, we watched movies together, squeezed onto the only sofa we had. At night, before sleeping, I read them stories while they fought over who got to lie closest to me. We were happy. Ralph worked in construction. He left at dawn and returned at sunset with hands full of calluses and clothes covered in dust. But he always arrived with a smile. He always hugged us before going to shower. He always made us feel that everything was going to be okay. I worked cleaning houses. I was not ashamed. I cleaned offices and apartments and huge houses of people who had more money than they knew how to spend. I got up at 5 in the morning and left breakfast ready for the children. I took 2 buses to get to my first job of the day. I returned at noon to prepare lunch and help the children with homework. Then I went out again to clean another house in the afternoon. My hands always smelled of bleach. My knees were always sore from scrubbing floors. But I never complained because every dollar I earned was for them, so that Ted could study, so that Rudy had his school supplies, so that Diane could go to ballet classes. That dream she was so excited about. They never lacked anything essential. When Ted turned 15, he wanted a bicycle. We did not have the money. Ralph and I worked double shifts for 3 months. We stopped buying meat. I mended my old clothes instead of buying new ones. We saved every penny. And on his birthday, we gave him that red bicycle he had dreamed of so much. He cried with happiness. He hugged me so hard, I thought he would break my ribs. "You are the best mom in the world," he told me. Rudy wanted to be a football player. We did not have the money to pay for a sports academy, but Ralph took him every weekend to play in the park. He taught him techniques. He encouraged him. I washed his uniform by hand after every game, even if he came back soaked in mud. I watched him run on that improvised field and felt that all my tiredness was worth it. Diane dreamed of going to Disney World. I saved money for 4 years. 4 years without buying myself a single pair of new shoes. 4 years eating beans and rice when the money was tight. But when she turned 10, we took her to Florida. I saw her little face lit up in front of Cinderella's castle, and I knew that any sacrifice had been worth it. That is how we raised our children. With sacrifice, with love, with the certainty that everything we did made sense. When Ralph died 7 years ago, I thought I was not going to survive the pain. It was a sudden heart attack. He left for work one morning and never came back. They called me from the hospital, but when I arrived it was already too late. He was gone. My children cried with me at the funeral. Ted, who was already 28, hugged me and said, "Do not worry, Mom, I am going to take care of you." Rudy at 26 put his hand on my shoulder and promised, "We are never going to leave you alone." Diane at 21 clung to me and whispered, "You are the strongest woman I know." And I believed them. I believed them because they were my children, because I had raised them with values, because I had taught them to honor their parents and to be grateful and to remember where they came from. During the first months after Ralph's death, they were present. Ted came on Sundays to fix things in the house that broke down. Rudy took me to the market. Diane visited me during the week and helped me with the cleaning. But little by little, the visits became spaced out. Ted got a promotion at his job. He started traveling a lot. His visits went from being weekly to monthly. Rudy married a woman who never looked at me with affection. From the beginning, I felt her coldness, but I said nothing. I did not want to cause problems. The visits became sporadic. He always had an excuse: work or traffic or social commitments. Diane moved to another city for her job. We spoke on the phone, but it was not the same. Her calls were brief and hurried and always interrupted by something more important. I kept working. I cleaned houses until I was 55 when my back could not take it anymore. But I had saved. I had been prudent. I bought this bigger house 10 years ago when Ralph was still alive. I put it in my name. It was my refuge after he left. I also bought 3 used cars, but in good condition, 1 for each child. I put them in my name because I wanted to make sure they took care of them. I wanted them to know they were a valuable gift. I told them, "These cars are yours, but they are in my name in case you ever need to sell them or something legal happens. It is to protect you." I never imagined that decision would become so important. My children grew up and became adults and made their lives, and I little by little became a shadow, someone they called only when they needed something: money for a payment, help with the grandchildren they never let me see for more than an hour, a quick favor that I always fulfilled without questioning. But when I needed company or when I called them just to hear their voices, the answers were always the same. "I am busy, Mom. I will call you later. I do not have time right now." And I accepted it because I was their mother, because a mother's love does not ask and does not demand and does not condition. Or so I believed. While I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. The cracks in a family do not appear from one day to the next. They form slowly like fissures in an old wall. At first they are so thin you do not even see them, but they are there growing and waiting for the moment to turn into chasms. The first time I felt something was changing was 3 years ago on Ted's birthday. He was turning 32. I had prepared his favorite cake, a strawberry shortcake he had loved since he was a boy. I called him to ask what time I could drop it off. "Better not come, Mom," he told me with a strange, distant voice. "We are going to celebrate with friends, and well, you know it is an adult atmosphere." Adult atmosphere, as if I were a child, as if my presence embarrassed my own son. I swallowed hard. I did not want to fight. "That is fine, son. Then shall I come by tomorrow?" "Better let me call you when I have time," he replied. And he hung up. He never called. The cake stayed in my refrigerator for a week. I ate it alone, a piece every night, while looking at old photographs of when Ted was a boy. In those photos he hugged me with that huge smile, missing his front teeth and eyes shining with pure love. At what moment had that boy turned into a man who did not want to see me? 2 months later, Rudy invited me to lunch. I got excited. It had been so long since the last time we shared a meal together. I dressed up nicely. I wore my best dress. I arrived on time at the restaurant he had chosen. But when I arrived, I understood why he had invited me. "Mom, I need you to lend me money," he said, before the waiter even brought us the menu. "It is $10,000. It is urgent. I have a business opportunity, and I need the capital." $10,000. Everything I had saved after paying the month's expenses. "And when would you pay me back?" I asked carefully, not wanting to sound suspicious. "In 6 months. I promise you, Mom. It is a safe investment." Something inside me warned me not to do it. But he was my son, my Rudy, the restless boy I had carried in my arms and nursed when he got sick and fed with my own effort. I gave him the money. 3 years have passed. He never returned a single dollar. When I ask him, he always has an excuse. "Business is slow. I am waiting for a payment. I will deposit it soon." But the money never arrives, and Rudy's calls do not arrive either. He only looks for me when he needs something else. With Diane it was different, more subtle, more painful. One Saturday afternoon 2 years ago, I decided to visit her without warning. She lived in a nice apartment on the north side of the city. I knocked on the door with a Tupperware of homemade pot pies I had made that morning, thinking I would surprise her. She opened the door halfway. She did not invite me in. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she asked me with a tone that mixed surprise and annoyance. "I brought you lunch, my love. I thought we could eat together. It is just that I have company," she said, looking back over her shoulder. I heard laughter inside. Female laughter. "It is not a good time. It will only be a little while," I insisted. I needed to be with her so much. Diane sighed. "Mom, seriously, I am busy. We will talk later, okay?" And she closed the door. I stood in the hallway of that elegant building with my bag of pot pies in my hands, feeling like a rejected saleswoman. I heard the laughter continue on the other side of the door. Diane was celebrating something with her friends, and I was not invited into her life. I went back home on the bus. I gave the food to the neighbors. I did not want to eat it alone. It would have tasted like humiliation. But the worst part was not those isolated moments. The worst part was realizing they were becoming a pattern. The phone calls I made on Sundays were no longer answered. My messages in the family group went unread for days. When I wrote "I miss you," no one responded. When I asked them how they were, I received one-word answers. "Good. Busy. Talk later." The invitations to my house were always rejected. "I cannot. I have work. I have a commitment that day. Better another day." But that other day never came. I realized they only looked for me when they needed me. Ted called me when he needed me to watch his son, my 6-year-old grandson Sawyer, because the nanny had called in sick. He would drop him off at 7 in the morning and pick him up at 9 at night without even asking if I had plans. I dropped everything to take care of that beautiful boy. I made his favorite food and played with him and told him stories. And when Ted arrived for him, he barely thanked me. He took him and did not call again until the next emergency. Rudy looked for me when he needed me to sign papers for the car that was in my name. "It is just paperwork, Mom. Sign here." I signed without reading, trusting him. What else could I do? He was my son. Diane called me when she needed advice, but not to listen to me, only to vent. She talked for an hour about her work problems and her frustrations and her romantic disappointments. I listened with patience. I gave her my opinion when she asked for it. But when I tried to share something about my life, something about my loneliness, she always found a way to cut the conversation short. "Oh, Mom, work is calling me. Talk later." Later never arrived. I became a convenience, someone useful, but not someone loved. And the saddest part is that I kept justifying them. They are busy, I told myself. They have their own lives. It is normal. Young people today are like that, more independent. But deep down, very deep down, I knew the truth. I knew that something had broken, that the love I had given them for decades was not being returned, that I was becoming invisible to the 3 people I loved most in this world. I started to feel lonely, deeply lonely. It was not the loneliness of having no one around. It was worse. It was the loneliness of having living, healthy, successful children and feeling that you did not matter to them. I tried to talk about it with them. I really tried. One Sunday afternoon a year ago, I managed to gather the 3 of them at my house. I had insisted so much that they finally agreed to come. I prepared their favorite food. I set the table carefully. I wanted that moment to be special. During the meal, I gathered courage and said, "Children, I need to speak with you." Ted looked up from his phone for a second. Rudy kept eating. Diane sighed. "What is it?" Mom asked Ted with impatience. "It is just that I miss you a lot. I feel like we do not see each other like before. I would like us to spend more time together, to come eat every Sunday like we did when your dad was alive." There was an uncomfortable silence. Rudy spoke first. "Mom, we are not kids anymore. We have our own families and our jobs. We cannot be coming every Sunday like we are 10 years old. I am not saying every Sunday, I tried to explain, but maybe once a month so we do not lose the connection." Diane let out a dry laugh. "Mom, do not make us feel guilty. We came today right. What more do you want?" Ted intervened with a conciliatory but cold tone. "Mom, I understand that you are lonely, but we cannot fill that void. Everyone has their life. You should make friends, go out, do something. You cannot depend on us to be happy." His words hit me like stones. I did not respond. I only nodded. We finished eating in silence. They left an hour later, each with a different excuse. That night I cried in my bed. I cried like I had not cried since Ralph died, because I understood something terrible. My children saw me as a burden, as someone dependent and needy and annoying, me who had sacrificed my youth for them, me who had worked until my body could not take any more to give them a decent life, me who had never asked them for anything in return other than a little time and a little love. But for them, that was too much. After that conversation, I stopped insisting. I stopped calling them so often. I stopped writing in the family group. I waited for them to look for me. Weeks passed, then months, and no one looked for me, only when they needed something. And that is how Christmas arrived this year. That Christmas, when I decided to make one last attempt, one last effort to recover my family. I wrote to them 2 weeks in advance. I begged them without saying I was begging. I opened my heart with that innocent message. "I expect you at 8 o'clock at night. Do not miss it. I love you." And they responded with indifference, with empty emojis, with silence. I should have known. I should have understood that they did not care anymore. But a mother's heart always hopes, always believes, always forgives before there is anything to forgive. And that hope almost destroyed me. I still ask myself if I did the right thing. And you, what would you have done in my place? There is a lie that mothers tell ourselves, a dangerous lie that we repeat like a mantra every time our children hurt us. They do not do it with bad intentions. They are just busy. They are just going through a difficult stage. They just need time. I repeated that lie for years. Every time Ted canceled a visit at the last minute, I told myself he is stressed about work. He is a good son, he just needs space. Every time Rudy borrowed money and never paid me back, I justified it, saying he is going through economic difficulties. He will pay me when he can. It is only temporary. Every time Diane hung up the phone abruptly or rejected my invitations, I thought she has her own life. Now she is independent. That is good. I raised her to be strong. I became an expert in excusing them, in minimizing my pain, in converting every slight into something understandable, into something justifiable, into something that I could endure if I were just more patient, more understanding, more flexible. And do you know what is the saddest part? That while I erased myself so as not to bother them, they got used to my absence. They got used to me always being available when they needed me, but never demanding anything in return. I became a resource, not a person. I remember an episode a year and a half ago that should have opened my eyes, but it did not, because I was already too submerged in my own denial. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was at the supermarket buying things for the week when I received a call from Ted. I got so excited seeing his name on the screen that I almost dropped my shopping basket. "Son, what a surprise. How are you?" "Mom, I need an urgent favor," he said without even saying hello. "Can you watch Sawyer tonight? I have a super important work dinner, and the nanny got sick." Sawyer was my grandson Ted's son, a beautiful 6-year-old boy who filled my heart every time I saw him. But the visits were always like that, urgent, unforeseen, functional. "Of course, son. What time are you bringing him?" "In an hour." "Is that okay? It is just that it is really urgent." Yes, no problem. I will wait for you here." I left the supermarket halfway done. I ran back home. I had to clean and prepare something for Sawyer to eat and get out his favorite toys that I kept in a special drawer for when he came. Ted arrived exactly 1 hour later. He entered in a hurry, almost without looking at me. Sawyer had his backpack with pajamas and a toothbrush. "Thanks, Mom. I will be back around 11. "So late?" I asked, surprised. "It is an important dinner. You know how these things are." He left without even hugging his son. Sawyer stood in the living room with his backpack hanging off one shoulder, watching me with those big eyes full of sadness. "Does your daddy always have a lot of work?" I asked him while helping him take off his shoes. "Yes," replied the boy with a small voice, "and my mommy too. That is why they always leave me with you or with the nanny." My chest hurt. That boy needed his parents, but they were too busy building their careers and their status and their perfect lives of successful adults. That night we played with cars and ate quesadillas and watched a dinosaur movie that he loved. Sawyer fell asleep in my lap at 9. I carried him to my bed, tucked him in carefully, and kissed his forehead. 11 o'clock arrived. Ted did not appear. Midnight. Nothing. 1 in the morning. Silence. I called him. He did not answer. I texted him. He did not respond. At 2 in the morning, I received a message. "Sorry, Mom. The dinner went long. Can you keep him until tomorrow?" "I will come by around 10. He did not ask me. He informed me. I responded. "It is fine, son. Sleep well." But it was not fine. I had a medical appointment at 9 in the morning on Saturday. An appointment I had waited 3 months for to check a pain in my chest that had me worried. But I canceled the appointment because my grandson needed me, because Ted needed me. And what happened? Ted arrived at 2 in the afternoon, not at 10, at 2. He entered laughing, talking on the phone, smelling of expensive cologne. When he hung up, he told me, "Thanks, Mom. The dinner went excellent. I think we are going to close the contract." "That is good, son," I replied, trying to smile. "Right. Oh, and afterwards we went to a bar with the client. The night got really good. Afterwards he went to a bar while his son slept at his grandmother's house, while his mother canceled her medical appointment to take care of the child he had left under the excuse of urgent work." But I said nothing. I smiled. I gave him a hug. I told him I am glad things are going well for you. Ted took Sawyer by the hand and left. He did not even give me gas money. He did not even thank me, really. He just gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and disappeared. I stood in the doorway watching his car drive away, and in that moment, I should have gotten angry. I should have called him and told him that what he had done was not right, that he could not use me like that I also had a life and needs and commitments. But I did not do it because I was afraid. Afraid that if I complained, if I demanded respect, he would stop looking for me. And then I would not see my grandson again. I would not hear my son's voice again. So I swallowed the rage. I swallowed the disappointment. And I continued being the understanding, available, unconditional mom. With Rudy it was worse because Rudy had learned that he could manipulate me emotionally. 8 months ago, he came to my house on a Sunday afternoon. He had not called ahead. He simply knocked on the door, and when I opened it, I saw him there with a strange smile. A smile I already knew. It was the smile he put on when he needed something. "Mom, so good to see you," he said, hugging me with that fake enthusiasm that hurt more than his indifference. "Son, come in. Do you want coffee?" "Yes, please." We sat in the kitchen. I made pot coffee, the kind he liked with cinnamon. I put sweet bread on the table and tried to converse, to ask him how he was, what he had done during those weeks I had not heard from him. But Rudy had not come to chat. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important," he said, after the second sip of coffee. My stomach tightened. I already knew what was coming. "Tell me, son, do you remember the money you lent me like 3 years ago?" "Yes, I remember." "Well, I still have not been able to pay you. And the truth is that I am going through a very difficult economic moment." I kept silent. I waited for him to continue. The business did not work out as expected. I lost everything. And now I have debts. Heavy debts. And will I come to ask you another favor? "Rudy, it is only 50,000 pesos. Or rather, about $3,000. Mom, I swear this time I will pay you. It is to get out of a debt I have with the bank. If I do not pay, they are going to seize the car that was in my name. Son, I do not have those savings anymore. What I lent you 3 years ago was everything I had saved. Now I only live on my pension." His face changed. The smile disappeared. "So you are not going to help me. It is not that I do not want to, son. It is that I literally do not have it. But you could take out a loan. You could pawn something. Could you do something or not?" I was speechless. Pawn something. Go into debt myself to get him out of his problems. Problems that he himself had created with his irresponsibility. "Rudy, I already helped you. I gave you everything I had, and you never returned it. How do you want me to lend to you again?" He got up from the chair abruptly. His face was red with anger. "I knew you were going to say that. I knew that in the end you always have excuses. Son, it is not an excuse. You know what, Mom? You always say you love us, that you would do anything for us. But when it comes down to it, when I really need you, you turn your back on me." His words went through me like knives. "Rudy, please understand me. No, you understand me. I am desperate, and you who are my mother deny me your help." He left, slamming the door. He left me trembling in that kitchen with the coffee still hot and the sweet bread intact and tears rolling down my cheeks. That night I could not sleep. I spent it turning his words over in my head. Was he right? Was I a bad mother for not going into debt to help him? Should I sacrifice myself more? How far did my love have to go? And the sickest part of all is that 2 days later, I called Rudy. I told him I had managed to get $3,000, that it was not exactly what he needed, but it was what I could give him. I lied. I had not found it. I took it from my credit card. I went into debt. I sacrificed my economic tranquility because I could not stand the idea that my son thought I did not love him. Rudy came for the money this time without a smile. He only took the envelope. He gave me a dry thanks and left. 8 months have passed. He never returned anything. He never even asked me how I was doing with the debt I had acquired for him. And Diane, my only daughter, my girl. With her, the pain was different, more subtle, more constant. Diane had learned to make me feel guilty for existing. Every time I called her, her tone was one of barely concealed annoyance. "What happened, Mom? Is everything okay?" As if I could only call her in case of emergency. "I just wanted to know how you are, my love." "Oh, Mom, I am fine. Busy, but fine." "And your work? How is it going?" "Fine, Mom. Everything is fine. Hey, I have to let you go. I am in the middle of something." She was always in the middle of something. She was always in a hurry. There was always something more important than talking to me. 6 months ago I tried to visit her again. This time I did warn her. I wrote to her. "Daughter, I am going to be near your house on Thursday. Can I come by to see you even for a little while?" She took hours to respond. "Better another day, Mom. Thursday I have a lot of work. And Friday. Friday I have plans. And the weekend. Mom, seriously, right now I cannot. I will let you know when I have time, okay?" She never let me know. I realized something devastating. My own daughter avoided me. My presence made her uncomfortable. Me, who had given birth to her, who had nursed her, who had watched over her dreams for years, had become someone she wanted to escape from. And still I kept justifying her. She is young, she has her life. I at her age did not visit my mom that much either. But that was a lie. I did visit my mother, every week, until the day she died, because that is how I had been taught. Because respect and love for parents had no age and no exceptions. I had become an expert in swallowing pain, in smiling when I wanted to cry, in saying it is okay when nothing was okay, in erasing myself completely so as not to bother my children with my existence. And they knew it. They knew I was always going to be there, always available, always forgiving, always waiting. That is why when I wrote to them about Christmas dinner, they did not even bother to invent good excuses. They just put emojis and vague answers and indifference, because I had set the precedent. They could treat me however they wanted. I was always going to understand. I was always going to forgive. I was always going to wait, until that Christmas Eve, until I read those words in the family group. "Bitter old hag, no one can stand you. Eat alone." In that moment, something inside me broke. And it was not just another fracture. It was the total collapse of all the lies I had told myself for years. I could no longer deny the truth. My children did not love me. They tolerated me. They used me. But they did not love me, and that truth, although devastating, set me free. While I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. There are signs we ignore because we do not want to see them. There are truths we reject because accepting them would mean destroying the image we have of the people we love. I had ignored many signs, too many, but they were all there waiting for the moment to reveal themselves. The first clear sign arrived 4 months ago in August. It was an accidental discovery that froze my blood. I was at Ted's house. He had asked me to go clean because he had an important inspection to sell the property. Yes, he asked me, a 59-year-old woman with back problems, to clean his 3-story house because he did not want to pay someone to do it. And I went because he was my son and because I always said yes. I was mopping the study when I saw his laptop open on the desk. I had no intention of snooping honestly, but the screen lit up by itself and a WhatsApp conversation appeared. It was a chat with his wife, Laura, and what I read took my breath away. Laura had written, "Did you tell your mom we are moving to Seattle yet?" Ted responded, "No, and I am not going to tell her until the last minute. You know how she gets. She is going to start with her drama that she is not going to see Sawyer, that we are abandoning her, blah, blah, blah." Well, it is true, right? She is not going to see her grandson as often. Oh, please. She barely sees him now. She is always asking us to bring him, but then she gets tired and calls us to pick him up early. That was a lie, a cruel lie. I never got tired of Sawyer, never. They were the ones who picked him up early because they had plans, because they did not want their son interfering with their outings, their dinners, their perfect lives as a successful couple. But Ted was telling his wife that I was the problem. I kept reading with my hands trembling. "Besides," continued Ted, "it is not like we do much for her. She comes when we need something, and that is it. We do not owe her anything else. We do not owe her anything else." Those words stayed etched in my brain like hot iron. Nothing else. 35 years of sleepless nights, of sacrifices, of unconditional love were nothing else. Laura responded, "You are right. Anyway, when we move, it will be a relief not to have her so on top of us." I closed the laptop. My hands were sweating. The mop fell to the floor. I sat on the floor of that study, surrounded by expensive furniture my son had bought with the money he earned at his successful job, and I cried in silence. I did not cry from sadness. I cried from rage, from helplessness, from humiliation. I finished cleaning that house like a robot. Every movement was mechanical. When I finished, I wrote to Ted, "I am done. Everything is clean." He responded 3 hours later, "Thanks, Ma." Not even Mom, just Ma, as if even my full name weighed on him. I said nothing to him about what I had read. What for? I already knew what he thought of me. I already knew he saw me as a burden, as someone annoying, as someone he needed to free himself from. 2 weeks later, I discovered something worse. It was a Saturday morning. I was checking my email when a notification from the bank arrived. It was about Rudy's car, the one that was in my name. Pending traffic fines. 47 unpaid infractions. Total owed $8,000. $8,000 in fines, 47 infractions. I called Rudy immediately. It rang 5 times before he answered. "Hello. Rudy, I just received an email from the bank. You have $8,000 in unpaid fines." There was a long silence. "Oh yeah, that. I forgot to mention it to you." "You forgot. It is almost 50 tickets. How is it possible?" "Mom, relax. They are from a while ago. I am going to pay them." "When, Rudy?" "Because the car is in my name. If you do not pay, they are going to garnish me." "I know, Mom. Do not be dramatic. I told you I'm going to pay them." "With what money?" "If you still owe me the $10,000 I lent you 3 years ago, and the $3,000 from 8 months ago." His voice changed. It became hard cold. "You know what? I am sick and tired of you always charging me. It is always the same with you. I lent you, you owe me. When are you paying me?" "Are mothers not supposed to help their children without expecting anything in return?" I went mute. "Rudy, no, Mom, seriously. You are obsessed with money. That is why no one wants to be with you, because you are always bitter, playing the victim, collecting favors." And he hung up. I stayed with the phone in my hand, trembling from head to toe. I could not believe what I had just heard. I was not collecting favors. I was defending the little I had left. But for him, I was the villain. I was the bad mother who dared to remind him of his debts. I spent 3 days without sleeping, turning that conversation over. Was I really the problem? Was I really being dramatic, bitter, obsessed? And then I remembered something. Something I had heard months ago, but had not wanted to process. It was in May. I had gone to the supermarket near Diane's house. I was in line to pay when I heard familiar voices behind me. I turned and saw Diane with 2 friends. She had not seen me. One of her friends asked her, "And your mom? How is she?" Diane sighed with exaggerated drama. "Oh, she is around, clingy as always. She does not understand that I grew up, that I have my life. Every little while she is calling me, sending messages. It is exhausting." The friends laughed. "All moms are like that," said another. "Yes, but mine is expert level. Recently she told me she misses me, asking if she could visit me. Can you imagine? Visit me just because, as if she had nothing better to do." They laughed again. I was 10 feet away with my back turned, but every word went through me like a bullet. "And what did you tell her?" "I invented that I had a lot of work. Obviously. I am not going to go see her just because she feels lonely. She should make friends or something. It is not my responsibility to entertain her." I paid my bill and left there as fast as I could. I got home and I vomited. Literally. I vomited from the disgust, from the pain, from the betrayal. My daughter. My only daughter. The girl I had taught to walk, to talk, to be strong. That same girl talked about me with contempt in front of her friends. She reduced me to a clingy mom, to a nuisance, to someone pathetic who had nothing better to do than bother her successful daughter. All these partial discoveries accumulated like stones in my chest. Each one was painful on its own, but together they formed an unbearable truth. My children not only ignored me, they despised me. They spoke ill of me behind my back. They made fun of my feelings. They saw me as a useless burden they wanted to get rid of. And the worst of all is that they kept pretending. When they saw me face to face, they spoke to me with that fake courtesy, with those "I love you" moms that were empty, with those promises of "see you later" that were never kept. They lived a double life. With me, they were apparently respectful children. Away from me, they were cruel, ungrateful, mocking. I started to wonder how many other conversations they would have had about me, how many times they would have rolled their eyes when I called, how many times they would have sighed with annoyance seeing my name on their screens. I felt like a fool, like a deluded old woman who had believed that a mother's love was enough to keep a family together. But it was not enough. It never was. They had grown up, they had formed their own lives, and in those lives I no longer fit. I was an obstacle, a relic of the past that reminded them of their humble origins, their moral obligations, their emotional debt. And that debt, evidently, they did not want to pay. 3 months ago, I did something I had never done. I reviewed my will. I had done it years ago when Ralph died. In that will, I left everything divided equally among my 3 children: the house, my savings, my belongings. I also specified that the 3 cars that were in my name officially belonged to them. While I read that document, I felt a mixture of sadness and rage. Was I really going to leave them everything, after how they treated me, after the constant humiliation, the contempt, the forgetfulness? I put the will in my drawer. I did nothing with it yet, but something had changed inside me. A seed of rage had begun to germinate. It was no longer just pain. It was no longer just sadness. It was indignation. Because I did not deserve this. No one deserved this. It did not matter how much I had sacrificed for them. I could not force them to love me, but I did not have to keep submitting to their cruelty either. And then December arrived. Christmas arrived. My last attempt to recover my family arrived. I wrote them that message 2 weeks in advance. I invited them with all my soul. I prepared that dinner with all my heart. And they did not even have the decency to invent a good lie. They just put emojis, one-word answers, total indifference. I should have known. All the signs were there. All the partial discoveries pointed to the same conclusion. They were not going to come. They never intended to come. But I, stubborn as always, wanted to believe there was a possibility. One last possibility, that they would remember who I was, that they would remember everything I had done for them, that the Christmas spirit at least would make them reflect. I was wrong. On December 24th at 10 at night, while I was sitting in front of that table full of food, no one was going to eat, I read that message in the family group. That message that destroyed me and at the same time set me free. Bitter old hag, no one can stand you. Eat alone. In that moment, all the partial discoveries united in a complete revelation. My children did not love me, and I no longer had to pretend that everything was fine. It was time to make a decision that would change everything forever. There are moments in life that change you forever. Moments that divide your existence into a before and an after. For me, that moment was the night of December 24th, sitting in front of a table full of food that no one came to share, reading words I should never have read. Bitter old hag, no one can stand you. Eat alone. I read them once, twice, 3 times, as if reading them more times would change their meaning, as if suddenly they were going to transform into words of love, of regret, of apology. But they did not change. They remained there. Cruel, definitive true. The family group had a name I myself had given it years ago. Bennett family, eternal love. How ironic. How painfully ironic. I looked at the screen until my eyes clouded over. Not with tears. I had no tears left. It was something deeper than sadness. It was the death of an illusion. The death of the mother who had believed unconditional love was enough. I got up from the chair. My legs were trembling, but I managed to stand. I walked to the kitchen window. Outside, my neighbors' houses shone with Christmas lights. I heard distant laughter music celebration. The world kept turning. Families remained gathered. Christmas was still magical for everyone except me. I went back to the table. I observed every detail of that dinner I had prepared with so much love. The golden turkey perfect, carved with precision. The gravy that had taken 2 days to prepare with my grandmother's recipe. The candied chestnuts, the steaming cider in the big pot, the gingerbread cookies decorated by hand, each with a message. I love you, Ted. I love you, Rudy. I love you, Diane. How pathetic I looked to myself, a 59-year-old woman writing messages of love on cookies for children who did not even have the decency to reject the invitation to my face. I picked up my phone again. I reread the message. This time I noticed a detail I had not noticed before. Ted's message had been sent to the wrong group. They had a parallel chat one without me where they spoke freely. And by mistake, Ted had sent that insult to the group where I was. I went into that parallel chat. Diane had deleted it quickly, but I managed to see it had a name. The Three. The Three, as if they were the real family, as if I were a stranger who needed to be protected against who needed to be talked about in secret. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted to call them and tell them everything I felt, all the pain they had caused me, all the rage I had accumulated. But I did not do it, because in the middle of that unbearable pain, something changed inside me, something fundamental. I realized I no longer wanted their love. I no longer wanted their apologies. I no longer wanted their empty promises. I wanted justice, not revenge. Justice. There was a difference. Revenge seeks to hurt. Justice seeks to balance. And after years of imbalance, of giving without receiving, of loving without being loved, of sacrificing myself without being valued, it was time to balance the scales. I sat again in front of the table. I served a plate for myself. Just one. I cut a piece of turkey and brought it to my mouth. This time I did feel the flavor. It was delicious. Perfect. I had done an exceptional job. I ate slowly. I tasted every dish. The gravy, the chestnuts, the cider, the cookies. Everything was exactly as it should be. I had done my part. I had demonstrated my love in the only way I knew: cooking, preparing, giving. They were the ones who had failed. Not me. I finished eating around 11 at night. I cleared the table. I put the food in containers. I cleaned everything calmly without hurry. Every movement was deliberate, conscious. At 11:30, I sat in the living room. The lights on the Christmas tree blinked softly. The Christmas music had ended. The silence in the house was absolute. I took my phone. I searched my contacts for a name I had not dialed in months. Attorney Ernest Palmer. Ernest had been the family lawyer for 15 years. He had handled Ralph's will when he died. He had managed the purchase of my house. He knew perfectly my properties, my accounts, my legal documents. I looked at the time. 11:40 at night. It was late. Too late to call. But something inside me urged me to do it, as if waiting until the next day would make me regret it, as if the clarity I had reached was so fragile it could vanish with the sunrise. I dialed. It rang 3 times. 4. 5. I thought he was not going to answer, but he answered. "Hello." His voice sounded sleepy, confused. "Mr. Palmer, it is Josephine Bennett." There was a pause. "Joe, is everything okay? It is very late." "I know. Excuse the hour, but I need you to help me with something urgent. Tonight." His tone changed. He became alert, professional. "What do you need?" I took a deep breath. The words were in my throat waiting to come out, but a part of me still hesitated. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to take such a drastic, definitive decision? I looked toward the now empty table. I remembered the hours I spent cooking. I remembered the illusion with which I had decorated. I remembered the hope with which I had waited. And I remembered the words, "Bitter old hag, eat alone." The doubt disappeared. "I need you to modify my will. I want to disinherit my 3 children, completely." The silence on the other side was long. I could imagine Ernest sitting up in his bed, completely awake now, processing what he had just heard. "Joe, are you sure? It is a very serious decision, very permanent. I am completely sure. Can I ask what happened?" I told him. I told him everything. The years of abandonment, the slights, the humiliations, and finally the Christmas dinner. The cruel message. The certainty that my children saw me as a nuisance they wanted to get rid of. Ernest listened in silence. When I finished, he sighed deeply. "I am so sorry, Joe. No mother should go through this. It is done. Now I just want to do what is right. I understand. But you should know that in this state, simply leaving them out might leave room for them to contest it. I cannot stop them from trying, but we can make it very difficult. We need to state clearly why. Is there cause? Have they supported you financially? Do they visit you regularly? Do they care for you? No, they do none of that. I have supported them. I have lent them money they never return. I have cared for them when they need me. But they only appear when they want something. That helps. We will draft a new will explicitly stating they are disinherited due to lack of relationship and support. We will leave the estate to charity so the intent is clear. How long does it take? Normally these processes take weeks, but if it is urgent, I can have a draft ready tomorrow afternoon. I will need you to come to my office to sign it with witnesses and a notary. No, I want to sign it tonight. Tonight. Joe, it is Christmas Eve. There are no notaries available. I do not care. Draft the document now. I will sign it. And tomorrow we make it official. But I need to have something in my hands tonight, something that confirms I took this decision, that I am not going to regret it tomorrow when I wake up. Ernest kept silent a moment. Then he said, "Okay, give me an hour. I will draft a preliminary document. I will email it to you. You read it, print it, sign it. And tomorrow we meet to formalize it properly. Does that sound good?" "It sounds perfect." "There is another thing, Ernest. You mentioned there are 3 cars in my name that my children use." "Correct." "Yes. Do you want me to report them?" "I can file a report for unauthorized use. That will mean if they try to drive them and get pulled over or scanned by police, it will be flagged. It is not permanent theft, but it will cause them, let's say, a considerable inconvenience." I thought about Rudy and his $8,000 in unpaid fines. I thought about Ted using his car to drive to Seattle without even telling me he was moving. I thought about Diane, who probably used her car to go to those meetings with friends where she spoke ill of me. "Do it. Flag the 3 cars. Understood. They will get a notification as soon as it processes if they have alerts set up, or the next time they start the car if it has that tech. Probably tomorrow morning." "Perfect." "Joe, one last question. And forgive me for asking, but it is my obligation as your lawyer. Are you taking this decision with a clear mind? Have you been drinking alcohol? Are you under medication that could affect your judgment?" "Ernest, I have spent 59 years making decisions with a clear mind. This is the clearest of them all." "All right. I trust you. Then let's get to work. I will send you the document in an hour. Review it calmly. And if you agree, I will see you tomorrow at 10 in the morning at my office to sign it officially. I will be there." I hung up the phone. My hands were no longer trembling. My heart beat calmly. A strange calm considering what I had just done. I got up from the armchair. I went to the kitchen. I poured myself a cup of hot cider. I went back to the living room and sat in front of the Christmas tree. While I waited for Ernest's email, I thought about my children. I thought about the children they had been, in the teenagers full of dreams, in the adults they had become. And I realized something I had never wanted to admit before. I had not failed as a mother. I had done everything right. I had given them love, education, values, opportunities. They had failed as children. And that was not my fault. It was not my responsibility to carry the guilt of their decisions, their ingratitude, their cruelty. At 12:30 in the morning, the email arrived. I opened it with steady hands. I read every word of the document. It was clear, legal, definitive. Will of Josephine Bennett. Hereby I revoke any previous will and establish the following. Due to the systematic moral and emotional abandonment by my 3 children, Theodore, Rudolph, and Diane, and using the faculties the law grants me, I dispose that my estate be distributed as follows. 0 to my children. The entirety of my assets shall be donated to charitable organizations that support elderly women in situations of abandonment. I kept reading. Every line was an act of justice, of dignity, of self-love. I printed the document. I signed it with my full name. I put it in a manila envelope. It was 2 in the morning on December 25th. Christmas, the day of birth, of forgiveness, of family. But for me it was the day of my rebirth, of the end of a stage of submission and the beginning of a stage of dignity. I went to sleep that night with a peace I had not felt in years. It was not happiness. It was something better. It was certainty. The certainty that for the first time in a long time, I had done the right thing for me. And while I closed my eyes, I thought about the morning. In the moment, my children discovered what I had done, in their faces of surprise, of indignation, of fury, and I smiled, because finally, after years of being invisible, they were going to see me, really, completely. I woke up on December 25th at 6 in the morning, not because I had to, simply because my body could not keep sleeping. There was something in the air, an anticipation, a strange energy that kept me alert. I got up, made myself a coffee, and sat in the kitchen to wait. I did not know exactly what I was waiting for, but I knew something was going to happen. Something big. At 7:30 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Rudy. I did not answer. He called again, and again, and again. 5 calls in 10 minutes. Finally, he left a voicemail. I listened to it. Mom, what the hell did you do? I just tried to start the car and it is locked out. I got a notification that it was reported unauthorized. I cannot use it. Call me. It is urgent. His voice was not worried. It was furious. I deleted the message. At 8 in the morning, Diane started texting me. Mom, why did you report my car? Mom answer. Mom, this is ridiculous. I have commitments today. What is wrong with you? Are you getting revenge now because we did not go to your dinner? I read every message calmly. I did not answer any. At 8:30, Ted called me. This time I did answer. I needed to hear his voice. I needed to confirm what I already knew, that they only looked for me when something affected them. Mom. Good morning, Ted. What did you do? I got a notification that my car was reported unauthorized. I had to leave Sawyer with the neighbors because I cannot move. Explain to me what is happening. His tone was demanding. Not worried about me, only about his inconvenience. The cars are in my name, Ted, and I decided to exercise my right to report them. Your right. What are you talking about? That car is mine. I use it. I pay the insurance. But it is in my name. And last night, while I ate alone on Christmas Eve, I decided it was time to make some changes. There was a silence. I could imagine his face processing what I had just said. Wait, is this because we did not go to your dinner? This is because none of you had the decency to tell me you were not coming. Because instead of that, you wrote in your private chat that I am a bitter old hag that no one can stand. Another silence. This one longer. Heavier. Mom, You what, Ted? Are you going to say it is not true? Because I read it, with my own eyes, in the family group. By mistake, you sent it to the wrong group. It was a moment of frustration. I did not mean it seriously. Oh, really? Then why did you write it? Why do you have a chat without me where you talk about how annoying I am? Mom, we all need to vent sometimes. Well, I also need to vent Ted. And last night I vented by calling my lawyer. Your lawyer. What for? To modify my will, and to block the cars you enjoy using so much but are in my name. His breathing accelerated. I could hear it through the phone. "You cannot do that. I already did. At 10 I have an appointment to sign the official document. The cars are going to remain flagged until I decide what to do with them. And regarding the will, well, you are going to have to wait until I die to know exactly what I changed. Mom, you are being irrational. You are reacting emotionally. Irrational. 35 years raising you, sacrificing myself for you, and you call me irrational because I finally react to years of contempt. It is not contempt, Mom. It is just that we have our lives. We were busy. We could not go to a dinner. It is not a big deal. You could not go to a dinner. But you could go to a bar after your urgent work dinner. A year and a half ago, while I watched your son until 2 in the morning, I thanked you for that. With a dry thanks, Mom, without even asking me how I was, without even paying for gas using my time, my house, my love, as if they were free and unlimited resources. Are you going to charge me now for taking care of your grandson? No, Ted, I am not going to charge you. But I am also not going to continue being your convenience, your emergency resource, your invisible mother who only exists when you need her. You are my mother. You are supposed to be there when we need you. His words hit me, but this time instead of hurting me, they gave me clarity. You are right. I am your mother, and I was there all your life. Every day, every night, every moment you needed me, and every moment you did not. But you, Ted, when have you been there for me? When have you called me just to know how I am? When have you visited me without needing something in return? He did not answer. Exactly. Never. Because for you, I only exist based on what I can give you. But no more, son. No more. Mom, please do not do this. Let's talk calmly. I have to go. Mr. Palmer is expecting me at 10. Mom, wait. I hung up. My hands were trembling, but not from fear. It was adrenaline. It was power. It was the feeling of finally, after years, setting boundaries. 10 minutes later, a message arrived in the family group. It was from Diane. Mom, seriously, are you going to punish us like we are children now? This is pathetic, Rudy responded. It is unbelievable. A lifetime sacrificing herself, and now it turns out she did it to hold it over our heads later. Typical, Ted wrote. Better to talk when her tantrum passes. Tantrum. 35 years of unconditional love reduced to a tantrum. I wrote in the group for the first time in weeks. It is not a tantrum. It is a conscious decision. You decided you did not want a mother. I decided I do not want children who treat me like garbage. We are even. And I left the group. I blocked the 3 numbers. I silenced WhatsApp. At 9:30 in the morning, I left my house heading to Ernest Palmer's office. I was dressed in my best clothes, hair done, makeup on, standing tall. I was not going as a victim. I was going as a woman who had recovered her dignity. I arrived on time. Ernest was waiting for me in his office along with 2 witnesses and a notary who, despite it being Christmas, had accepted to come for an extra fee. Joe, good morning. Did you have a quiet night? The quietest in years, Ernest. I am glad. I have the document ready. Do you want to review it one more time before signing? It is not necessary. I trust your work. Very well then, let's proceed. The notary read the document aloud. Every word was a nail in the coffin of my old life. Every clause was a declaration of independence, due to systematic moral and emotional abandonment due to lack of relationship, due to psychological mistreatment manifested in derogatory messages. When he finished reading, he passed me the pen. Joe, are you sure you want to sign this document? I looked the notary in the eyes. Completely sure. I signed. My name flowed with firmness on the paper. Josephine Bennett, a free woman. The witnesses signed. The notary stamped the document. Ernest stored it in his file. Ready, he said with a sad smile. Officially, your will has been modified. Your children receive nothing beyond any personal items you choose to gift. The rest will be for the organizations you chose. Perfect. And the cars. The cars are flagged. I have sent the corresponding documentation. If your children want to recover them, they will have to come talk to me. And they will have to go through a legal process that will take them at least 6 weeks. Excellent. Joe, can I ask you a personal question? Tell me, are you not afraid your children will sue you, that this will become a legal battle? Let them try. I have all the documentation, messages, call logs, evidence of unreturned loans, provable abandonment. If they want to fight, they are going to lose." Ernest nodded with respect. "You are a very brave woman." "I am not brave, Ernest. I just got tired of being invisible. I left that office feeling 20 pounds lighter, as if I had left behind decades of emotional baggage. When I got home, it was 11 in the morning. I turned on my phone. I had 57 missed calls, 29 WhatsApp messages from unknown numbers. My children were using other people's phones to contact me. I did not read any messages. I deleted all notifications. At 1 in the afternoon, they knocked on my door. I looked through the window. It was Ted. He was alone. His face looked tired, desperate. He knocked again and again and again. "Mom, open up. We have to talk." I did not open. "Mom, please. This is ridiculous. You cannot lock yourself up forever." I stayed sitting in the living room in silence, listening to his pleas on the other side of the door. "Okay, I admit it, we behaved badly, but you are our mother. You cannot abandon us like this. Abandon us." What an interesting choice of words. After 20 minutes, he gave up. I heard him walk away. I heard his steps fading down the street. At 3 in the afternoon, Diane arrived, this time with Rudy. They knocked on the door with more aggression. "Mom, stop acting and open up." It was Diane's voice. That voice that used to fill me with tenderness now only caused me indifference. "We know you are there. Your neighbor told us she saw you arrive," Rudy yelled. "This is abuse, Mom. You are emotionally blackmailing us." Emotional blackmail. What a fascinating concept coming from 3 people who had manipulated my emotions for years. Diane kept yelling. "Okay, you are right. We should not have written that. But we were frustrated. Everyone says things they do not mean when they are angry." I opened the window just an inch, enough for them to hear me. Frustrated by what, Diane? By having a mother who loves you, by having someone who is always available when you need her. "Mom." Diane sounded relieved to hear my voice. "Please come out. Let's talk like adults. I already talked last night with my lawyer. That was my adult conversation." Rudy intervened. "So what? Are we not your children anymore? Are you going to erase us from your life for a stupid message?" It was not a message, Rudy. It was years of contempt, of forgetting, of using me. That message was just the straw that broke the camel's back. "Mom, please." Diane started to cry, or at least she pretended to. "We love you. We really love you. You love me. Where was that love yesterday? Where was it when I prepared a dinner for 4 and ate alone? Where was it when I needed you all these years and you were never there? We are going to change," promised Ted, who had evidently returned. "We swear to you, we are going to be better children. It is too late for that." "Do not say that," yelled Diane. "It is never too late for a family." "You are right, Diane. It is never too late for a family. But you stopped being my family a long time ago, only I refuse to see it." I closed the window. I heard them scream, plead, threaten. For an hour, they were there until finally they left. That night, I sat in my empty living room. The Christmas tree lights were still on. The house still smelled of turkey and cinnamon, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. I had lost my 3 children, but I had recovered something more valuable, my dignity. It was not a loss, it was a liberation. The days following Christmas were strange, silent, but not the kind of silence that hurts. It was the silence of a house finally at peace, the silence of a life without drama, without manipulation, without waiting for calls that never came or messages they never answered. It was the silence of freedom. On December 26th, I woke up late at 9 in the morning, not because I had to get up early to cook clean or be available in case someone needed me. I woke up when my body decided. I made coffee just for me. I ate leftovers from the Christmas dinner sitting on the patio, watching the cardinals that visited the bird feeder. I did not check my phone. I did not wait for messages. I did not feel guilty for not being available. For the first time in years, I simply existed for myself. That afternoon, I started packing my children's things that were still in my house, boxes of memories they had left temporarily, and that had become permanent old clothes, toys from when they were children, photographs, diplomas. Every object was a memory, but they were no longer memories that brought me joy. They were reminders of people who no longer existed because the children I had raised with so much love had turned into adults I did not recognize. I packed everything carefully, not for them, for me, because I was not like them. I did not destroy, I did not discard. I respected the past, even if the present had hurt me. On December 27th, I received a call from Ernest Palmer. "Joe, good morning, how are you?" "Good, Ernest." "Very good, actually. I am glad to hear that. I am calling because your children came to my office yesterday. The three of them. The three. They wanted to talk about the cars, and also, well, they wanted to know if it was possible to reverse the change in the will." "And what did you tell them?" "I told them the truth, that the will is your decision, and only you can modify it, and that the cars will remain flagged until you decide otherwise." "How did they react?" "Ted tried to be diplomatic. He said he understood you were hurt, that they wanted to fix things. Rudy was more direct. He threatened to sue me for conspiracy or something like that. I had to remind him that I am only the executor of your decisions, not the author." And Diane cried. "A lot. Diane has always been a good actress." Ernest kept silent a moment. Then he said, "Joe, they asked me to give you a message." "What message?" "That they are willing to do whatever is necessary to regain your trust, that they want to talk to you, that you give them a chance. And what do you think, Ernest?" "My opinion as a lawyer is that you have every legal right to maintain your decision. My opinion as a person, well, that is more complex. They are your children, and despite everything, you love them. I can see that." "I love them, Ernest." Past tense. "I love the children they were, but those adults who are there now, I do not recognize them. And above all, I do not trust them." "I understand." "What do you want me to tell them if they come back?" "Tell them that if they want to talk to me, they know where I live, but that I am not going to open the door just because now they do need me. That they will have to demonstrate with actions, not words, that they have really changed. I will let them know." After hanging up, I kept thinking about Ernest's words. Did I still love them? It was a difficult question. Mother's love does not disappear just like that, but it transforms, it hardens, it protects itself. I was no longer the naive mother who forgave everything. I was a woman who had learned that love without respect is abuse, and that forgiveness without change is complicity. On December 28th, something changed inside me. It was subtle, but deep. I was watering the plants in the garden when I realized I was smiling. Not for something specific, just smiling. My body felt light. My shoulders no longer carried that invisible weight I had carried for years. The guilt had disappeared. For decades, every time I set boundaries, I felt guilt. Every time I said no, I questioned if I was being selfish. Every time I prioritized my well-being over my children's demands, I felt like a bad mother. But now I understood something fundamental. Being a good mother does not mean erasing yourself. It means teaching. And sometimes the best lesson is letting consequences speak for themselves. That afternoon, I made a decision I never thought I would make. I called a travel agency. "Good afternoon. How can I help you? I want to book a trip. For one person. To somewhere with a beach. For mid-January." "Perfect. Do you have any destination in mind?" "Surprise me. I just want a quiet place with an ocean view where I can rest without anyone bothering me." The agent laughed softly. "I think I have exactly what you need." She offered me a package to Key West, a week in a small hotel facing the beach, all inclusive. There was a promotion for seniors. "I will take it," I said without thinking twice. "Excellent. Will you pay with a card?" "Yes." I gave my details. I confirmed the reservation. And when I hung up, I felt like a teenager planning her first adventure. I was going to do something just for me, without consulting anyone, without asking permission, without feeling guilty. On December 29th, my children made one last desperate attempt. They arrived together at my house. I saw them from the window. They brought a large box wrapped in gift paper. They looked nervous, uncomfortable. They knocked on the door. "Mom, we know you are there. Please give us 5 minutes." It was Ted's voice. I did not respond. "Mom, we brought you a gift. It is a gesture of apology. Please at least open up so we can give it to you." Diane spoke. "Mom, we have been thinking. And you are right. We behaved horribly towards you. We want to make it up to you. Make it up to me. As if years of abandonment could be made up for with a wrapped box." I opened the door. Just a little. Enough to see them, but not to invite them in. The three of them looked at me with expressions that tried to look regretful, but I already knew their masks. 5 minutes. I said. "Speak." Ted cleared his throat. "Mom, we wanted to apologize formally. What we wrote in the chat was cruel and unjustifiable. We were frustrated, but that is no excuse. And not going to your dinner? We have no excuse." "Exactly," added Rudy. "We have no excuse, but we want you to know we are going to change." "Really?" Diane extended the box towards me. "We bought you this. It is a tablet, so you can video call us easier, so we can be more connected." I looked at the box. I did not take it. "So your solution is a tablet. You think an electronic device is going to fix years of contempt. It is not just that," Mom said, Ted. "We also want to propose something. We are going to make a calendar. We are going to take turns visiting you every Sunday, a different one every week. That way you will always have company. And we are going to organize family dinners once a month," added Diane. "At your house or ours, however you prefer. We are going to make up for lost time." I looked at the three of them, their faces full of fake hope, their promises that sounded exactly like all the broken promises of the past. "Do you know why I do not believe you?" I asked calmly. They looked at each other confused. "Because you have had years to do all that. Years in which I asked you, I begged you, I pleaded for a little time, and you never did it." "Why now?" "Because we understood how important you are to us," said Diane. "No. Now because I took your cars. Because I modified my will. Because finally there are consequences for your actions. It is not love that brings you here. It is panic." Rudy clenched his jaw. "So what do you want, Mom? That we crawl? That we kiss your feet? I do not want anything, Rudy. That is precisely the point. I no longer want anything from you. For years I wanted your love, your time, your respect, and you never gave it to me. Now I do not need it anymore." "That is not true," said Ted. "Mothers always need their children. Mothers always need their children. You do not value me. You only need me." "Mom, give me a chance," pleaded Diane. "Just one. I promise you I'm going to change." "Diane, you have promised to change hundreds of times. Every time I complained about something, you promised to call more often, visit me more, and it never happened. This time is different. It is not. The only difference is that now there is something at stake for you. But for me, there is nothing at stake anymore, because I already lost everything I could lose. I lost you years ago. Only I was deceiving myself." The silence that followed was dense, painful. Finally, Ted spoke. "So this is how it ends. Are you going to die alone, bitter without your family?" His words sought to hurt me, sought to activate my deepest fear, loneliness, but it did not work anymore. I prefer to be alone than to be surrounded by people who make me feel invisible. The loneliness that hurts is not physical, Ted. It is what you feel when you are with someone who does not see you. And with you, I always felt alone. Diane started to cry. This time they seemed like real tears. "I do not want to lose you, Mom." "Then you should have thought about it before. You should have thought about it all those times you rejected my invitations. All those times you made me feel like a nuisance. All those times you spoke ill of me with your friends." She startled. "How?" "I heard you, Diane, in the supermarket, months ago telling your friends it was exhausting having a mother like me." She covered her mouth with her hand. "Mom, Each of you has hurt me in ways I never imagined possible, and now you come here with a tablet and empty promises hoping I forget everything." "So, what can we do?" asked Ted with desperation. "Nothing. You cannot do anything anymore. The damage is done." "But you always said a mother's love was unconditional," claimed Rudy, "and it was for 59 years. But it turns out even unconditional love has limits. And you crossed them all." I took the gift box Diane was still holding. I put it on the ground in front of them. "Keep your tablet, keep your promises, and keep the lesson. People are not disposable. And when you decide to treat someone like they do not matter eventually, that person is going to believe it and let you go." I closed the door. I heard their sobs on the other side. I heard their pleas. But this time my heart did not yield because finally I had understood something fundamental. Letting them go was not hatred. It was self-love. That night, I took out my wedding ring, the one Ralph had given me 39 years ago. I looked at it under the lamplight. It still shined, despite the time. I spoke to him aloud as if he could hear me. "Forgive me, love. I know you wanted me to take care of our children to keep them united, but I could not." Or maybe taking care of them also meant teaching them this last lesson. The lesson that actions have consequences and that true love demands respect. I put the ring back in my jewelry box, and for the first time since his death, I felt Ralph would be proud of me, not for sacrificing myself, but for finally valuing myself. There is a truth I learned too late in life. You do not need to take revenge on those who hurt you. Life takes care of that by itself. The natural consequences of our actions always find their way back. Always. And my children were about to find out. The first weeks of January passed. I prepared for my trip to Florida. I bought new clothes, a swimsuit, comfortable sandals, a straw hat. I felt like a completely different person, a version of me that had been buried under years of obligations and sacrifices. During that time, I heard nothing from my children. They did not call, they did not write, and I did not look for them either. But life in the suburbs has its ways of keeping me informed. News arrived through neighbors, acquaintances, casual conversations at the market, and the news was not good, not for them. The first one I heard about was Ted. Mrs. Higgins, my neighbor of a lifetime, knocked on my door one Friday afternoon in early January. She brought a container of chicken casserole. "Joe, I brought you this. I made it this morning." "Thanks, Mrs. Higgins." "What a nice gesture. Come in, please." We sat in the kitchen. I made coffee. And as always happens with neighbor conversations, eventually we reached the topic she really wanted to discuss. "Hey, Joe, is it true your son Ted is getting divorced?" I almost spit out my coffee. "Divorcing? Ted?" "Yes, my friend who lives near him told me. She says Laura left the house 2 weeks ago, that she took the boy and went to her mother's." "Sawyer." "Yes, the boy." "My friend says there was a big scandal that Laura discovered Ted was spending money on sports betting. A lot of money. And that he had lied to her about some debts he has." I stayed silent, processing the information. She also says Ted is doing very badly, that they have seen him drunk in bars, that he lost an important contract at work because he arrived hungover to a meeting with clients. "Your son was always so responsible. What happened to him?" "I do not know, Mrs. Higgins, but I did know. I knew exactly what had happened to him. For years, Ted had built a life based on appearances, on projecting success, on pretending everything was perfect. But the cracks always end up opening. And now, without the car, I had blocked, without the safety net that represented knowing his mother would always be there to rescue him, all his house of cards was collapsing. 2 days later, I found out about Rudy. I was at the bank when I heard 2 women talking in line, and my son says Rudy Bennett is in a tremendous mess, that he owes money to half the world, that he tried to take out a loan, and they denied it because he has terrible credit history. Joe's son. That boy always looked so prosperous, pure facade friend. It turns out the business he had went broke months ago, and now he is trying to sell things to pay debts. But no one buys anything because everyone knows he is desperate. And his wife, his wife. That one has her own issues, too. My son says she was sick of Rudy's lies, that she discovered he had pawned even her jewelry to pay his debts. Now she is threatening to leave him. I moved away from the line. I did not want to keep listening, but I could not deny I felt something. It was not satisfaction, it was confirmation. Rudy had lived his whole life as if money were infinite, as if he could borrow without returning, as if the consequences of his actions would never reach him. And I had been his accomplice, lending him money I knew he would never pay back, rescuing him from his financial problems again and again. But when I took away that safety net, when I finally told him no more, his world collapsed because he had never learned to be responsible. He had never had to face the real consequences of his decisions, and now he was facing them all at once. About Diane, I found out by chance in the most unexpected way. I was in a coffee shop on January 10th, drinking a cappuccino and reading a book, when I saw a woman enter whom I recognized vaguely. It was one of Diane's friends, the one who had been with her that time at the supermarket. She sat at the table next to me with another woman, and since they did not recognize me, they spoke freely. "Did you hear about Diane Bennett?" "No." "What happened?" "She lost her job. They fired her." "Seriously? Why?" "For several serious errors. It seems she was very distracted, very stressed. She messed up an important project and cost the company a lot of money. They kicked her out without severance." "Oh no. Poor Diane." Yes, but also I do not know how to say it without sounding mean, but I saw it coming. Diane has always been very irresponsible. She spends more than she earns. She lives in an apartment she cannot afford. She went into debt buying things to show off and now without a job. Has she looked for another one? She says yes, but it is hard. Her reputation in the industry was stained, and besides, she is doing very badly emotionally. I think she has problems with her mom or something. She told me a few weeks ago her mom had cut her off. I did not understand the drama well, but Diane was very affected. That is heavy. And no one can help her. Her brothers. It seems everyone is in trouble. It is a complicated family. I got up from my table and left the coffee shop without finishing my coffee. I needed fresh air. I needed to process what I had just heard. Diane, my girl, was destroyed without a job, without stability, without direction. And a part of me, a small but persistent part, wanted to call her, wanted to rescue her like I had done so many times before. But I stopped myself because this time was different. This time Diane had to learn the lesson I had never taught her, that actions have consequences, that you cannot mistreat people who love you and expect them to always be there to save you, that life collects its bills. I went back home with a heavy heart. It was not happiness I felt knowing my children were suffering. It was something more complex. It was the sadness of seeing that the pain I had tried to spare them their whole life had finally reached them. But at the same time, there was a sense of justice. Not the justice I had sought, but the natural justice of life. The one that says, what you sow, you reap. 2 weeks later, on January 19th, one day before my trip to Florida, I received an unexpected visit. It was Laura Ted's wife, well ex-wife in process. She knocked on my door softly. When I opened, I was surprised to see her. She was thinner, had dark circles under her eyes, but there was a determination in her eyes I had not seen before. "Joe, can I come in?" Laura, of course, come in. We went into the living room. I offered her water. She sat on the edge of the sofa, nervous. "I do not know if Ted told you, but we are separating." I heard. "I am so sorry. Do not be sorry. It is for the best. I should have done it years ago." She took a deep breath. "I came to talk to you because I need you to know something. Something Ted never told you." "What thing?" 6 months ago, when you lent him your house to clean it. Remember?" "Yes, I remember." "Ted was not selling the house. That was a lie. The truth is he needed you to clean it because we were going to receive some investors. Ted wanted to impress them so they would lend him money for a business, a sports betting business." I froze. But the business never worked. Ted started betting the money they lent him, and he lost. Everything. And then he started lying, hiding debts, taking out loans in my name without my knowledge. I discovered everything a month ago. And when I confronted him, do you know what he told me? I shook my head. He told me his mom always rescued him when he had problems, that you forgave him everything, that eventually you were going to help him with the debts because that is what mothers do. That I was exaggerating. Tears began to roll down my cheeks. But then you changed your will and blocked the cars. And Ted realized he had nowhere to run, and he collapsed, completely. He started drinking, arriving late to work, being irresponsible with Sawyer, and I could not take it anymore. Laura, I did not know. You are not to blame, Joe. On the contrary, I think you did the right thing. Ted needed to hit rock bottom. He needed to learn that his actions have consequences. I just came to tell you that. And to thank you. Thank me. Yes, because what you did gave me the courage to do the same, to set boundaries, to not continue being an accomplice to his irresponsibility. She got up from the sofa. I just wanted you to know the truth. Ted is bad off, but it is a consequence of his own decisions, not yours. I walked her to the door. Before leaving, she turned around. One more thing. Sawyer asks about you. He says he misses his grandma. My heart squeezed. Can I see him? Of course, whenever you want. You are not to blame for what happened between Ted and me, and Sawyer loves you. She left, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night I could not sleep. I thought about my 3 children, about how each one was facing the consequences of years of wrong decisions. Ted had bet his life believing there would always be someone to rescue him. Now he was alone, facing debts he could not pay and a destroyed reputation. Rudy had lived on loans and lies. Now no one trusted him, not even his own wife. Diane had built her life on appearances. Now everything was real unemployment debts, loneliness, and none of those consequences came from me. They came from themselves, from the decisions they had made, from the bridges they had burned, from the people they had used and discarded. I had just stopped cushioning their fall, and in doing so, I had allowed them to finally touch the ground, that hard, painful, but necessary ground to be able to get up for real. They once called me crazy. Years later, I saw that same emptiness in their eyes while they were alone facing the consequences of their own decisions. Life always collects its debts. Always. And it does not need my help to do it. It just needs time and patience and the certainty that sooner or later balance is restored. The next day I left for Key West with a light suitcase, a heart lighter still, and the peace of knowing that finally after years I had done the right thing, not out of revenge, out of dignity. And that made all the difference. I am sitting on a terrace facing the sea. The Key West sun sets slowly on the horizon, painting the sky orange, pink, and purple. The waves break gently against the sand. A warm breeze caresses my face, and for the first time in decades, I feel completely at peace. 3 months have passed since that Christmas Eve. 3 months since I ate alone in front of a table full of food that no one came to share. 3 months since I read those cruel words that destroyed an illusion and paradoxically set me free. Bitter old hag. No one can stand you. Eat alone. Sometimes I still hear those words in my mind, but they do not hurt me like before. Now they are simply a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the most painful rejection is what we need to wake up, to open our eyes, to realize we have been living a lie. The lie that a mother's love is enough. That if you love enough, give enough sacrifice enough, eventually you will be reciprocated, valued, loved back. But it is not like that. And that is a truth all mothers should learn. We cannot force anyone to love us, not even our own children. During my week in Florida, I did things I had never done. I walked on the beach at dawn, feeling the sand between my toes. I read 3 books sitting under an umbrella. I took yoga classes. I ate fresh seafood without worrying about the price. I talked with other women my age who were also traveling alone, each with her own story of liberation. And I realized something fundamental. I was not alone. Being alone and feeling lonely are 2 completely different things. For years, surrounded by my children, I felt deeply lonely. But now, physically alone on a beach hundreds of miles from my house, I felt accompanied by myself. And that was enough. When I returned home, I found 3 boxes on my porch. I recognized the handwriting on the labels. They were the things I had packed of my children. I had sent them by courier, not as an act of cruelty, but as an act of closure. They needed to recover their memories, and I needed to free space in my house and in my heart. I also found letters, one from each of them. I read them calmly, sitting in my living room with a cup of tea in my hands. Ted's letter was long. He talked about his divorce, his problems, how he had hit rock bottom. And at the end it said, "Mom, you were right. You were right about everything. I needed this. I needed to fall to understand what I had done. I am in therapy. I am fighting my addictions. I am trying to be a better father to Sawyer. And someday I hope to be a better son to you. I do not ask you to forgive me now. I only ask you to know that I finally understood. Thank you for not rescuing me this time. It was the hardest act of love you could do, and the one I needed most." I cried reading that letter, not from sadness but from hope. Ted was changing not for me, but for himself. And that was the only thing that mattered. Rudy's letter was shorter, more direct. "Mom, I owe you an apology I do not know how to express. I used you for years. I saw you as a bank, not as a person. And when you finally told me no, I got mad. But now I understand. My wife left me. I lost almost everything. But I am rebuilding. I started from scratch. I got a humble but honest job. I am paying my debts one by one, and I am going to pay you what I owe you even if it takes me years, because that is the right thing. And because finally I understood that being a man does not mean having success. It means having your word. Forgive me, Mom. and thank you for not being an accomplice to my irresponsibility. I also cried with that letter. Rudy was learning. At 33 years old, he was learning lessons he should have learned at 20, but better late than never. Diane's letter was the most emotional. Mom, I spent my whole life trying to impress people who did not matter. I built a version of myself based on appearances, on likes, on external validation. And in that process, I forgot the person who was always there. You. I took you for granted. I treated you as if you were just another piece of furniture in my life. Something that would always be there no matter how much I neglected it. I lost my job. I lost my apartment. I lost almost everything I thought defined me. And in that emptiness, I finally realized what really mattered. People. True relationships. Love that does not ask for likes or validation. It just exists. I am rebuilding my life. I went back to school. I got a simple job in a bookstore, and for the first time in years, I am genuinely happy because I stopped pretending. Mom, I do not know if someday you will forgive me, but I want you to know I understand you, and I love you. Really. Not the conditioned love I showed you before, but real love, the kind that hurts when you realize how much damage you caused. Thank you for teaching me the hardest lesson, and the most necessary. I kept the 3 letters in my drawer. I did not respond. Not yet. Because some things need time, and some relationships need to be rebuilt from scratch, with new foundations, not with the ruins of the past. 2 weeks later, Laura called me. She asked me if I wanted to see Sawyer. I accepted without hesitation. We met in a park. When Sawyer saw me, he ran towards me with those little open arms. He hugged me with the strength of his 6 years, and in that hug I felt something I had not felt in months. Pure love, without conditions, without manipulation, without expectations. Grandma, I missed you so much. I missed you too, my love. We spent the afternoon playing. Laura told me Ted was progressing in his treatment, that he had gotten a new job, more modest but more stable, that he was being a present father to Sawyer. I do not know if someday we will be together again, Laura told me. But I know Ted is changing, really, and a big part of that is thanks to you. It is not thanks to me. It is thanks to him, to his decision to face his problems. But you pushed him to do it. You took away the safety net, and that saved his life. That night, lying in my bed, I thought about everything that had happened, about how a single moment, a single decision on a Christmas night had changed the course of my life and the lives of my children. If I had forgiven them one more time, if I had ignored that cruel message, if I had continued being the unconditional mother I always was, nothing would have changed. They would have continued using me, and I would have continued erasing myself. But I took the difficult decision, the decision no mother wants to take, letting them fall. And in that fall, they finally learned to fly. Today, 4 months after that Christmas Eve, my life is completely different. I have a new routine. I get up early and walk in the park. I have breakfast in a coffee shop where I have made friends. I go to painting classes on Wednesdays. I visit Sawyer every 2 weeks. And I am planning another trip for June, this time to Charleston. My children are in my life, but in a different way. Healthier, more balanced. Ted calls me every Sunday, not to ask me for something but to chat. Rudy deposited $100 last month. It is a small amount, but it is the first payment of his debt. And what matters most is it is a gesture of responsibility. Diane visited me 2 weeks ago. She brought flowers. She apologized again, and we spent the afternoon cooking together without talking about the past, only enjoying the present. I do not know if someday our relationship will be as I dreamed. Probably not, because dreams based on illusions never come true. But we can build something new, something real, something based on mutual respect, on clear boundaries, on genuine love. And that is enough. If you are listening to this story and you identify with me, I want to tell you something. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are not a bad mother for refusing to continue being used. You are not cruel for letting people face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no more. It is allowing the people you love to fall so they can learn to get up alone. It is valuing yourself enough not to accept crumbs when you deserve complete love. It took me 59 years to learn that lesson, 59 years of giving, of sacrificing, of erasing myself. But finally I understood. Love without respect is mistreatment, and allowing mistreatment is not love. It is complicity. Today I look in the mirror and see a different woman. A woman with gray hair she no longer hides, with wrinkles she counts with pride, with eyes that have cried but have also learned to shine again. I see a woman who chose her dignity over approval, who chose her peace over guilt, who chose to live over survive. And so we close the book on Josephine's journey. It is a quiet reminder that the walls we build are sometimes necessary to protect the garden of our own peace. While this story is a dramatization, the silence of an empty table and the weight of ungratefulness are burdens many carry in secret. May it serve as a gentle nudge to honor your own dignity, for we teach others how to love us by how we love ourselves.